Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the program Ventures. On the program today, we're going to be looking at alternative sources of energy and the things that we can do with those alternative sources. There are many technological innovations in this industry. We have an expert in the studio who is going to be telling us what they are doing in their own sphere. Do stay with the program. Welcome to the program. With me in the studio today is Mr. Chukwunonso Osakwe. He is the CEO of Quadcycle Automobile on electric vehicle and solar energy station manufacturing company. Wow, that's a mouthful. But he's going to tell us exactly what that means. Mr. Osakwe, welcome to Ventures.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Okay. Tell us first of all what sources of alternative energy are. What are those other sources apart from fossil fuel energy?
Okay, we have a lot of them. And if we're going from the crude, you could talk about firewood, candles, coal. These are ways people use to give themselves lighting, warm their bodies, and even cook. But if you're now looking at alternatives to electricity, there are many of them. And if you look at the renewable ones, there is biogas, and then of course solar energy, and there is also thermal. So there are so many other sources of energy, and a lot of them are renewable, which means that they are not taken from the earth, as it were, in a way that cannot be replaced. You understand? So, I mean, the options are endless, and new ones are still coming out.
So, which one specifically is your company all about?
We're more of solar, because I think that is an easier entry and more easily available.
All right, so tell us what you do.
Okay, in the last 22 years, I've been basically in the solar industry, and what we do is to get people and companies to have a more reliable source of energy than is available from the grid. So what we do is we provide maybe just the inverter system, which is an inverter with battery system. And what that does is your energy is stored in batteries when there is grid power. And then when the grid fails, you now use up this energy you've stored in the batteries to power your appliances. And then for others, we use solar energy, which means the sun provides the energy that you will either store in your battery or use immediately for your devices.
I see situations where there is a battery,
yes.
There is the electricity from the grid fed into the battery as well as solar. How
yes.
does that work?
That's usually a hybrid system, okay, where it's a more cost-effective way of getting this done, right? Because that means you need less batteries, you need less panels, and then you're also a bit dependent on the grid. So what this does is you use some energy from the grid when it's available, and some of this could be stored in the battery or used at home or in your office. And then the solar system also provides energy. So some of the systems that we have are smart enough to make it possible for it to use solar when solar is enough to power your appliances.
Okay.
But when the sun, because you can't control the sun,
yeah,
right? So it could get cloudy. And when it gets cloudy, your energy output drops. And when this drops, it may not be enough to power all your appliances. So these systems are smart enough to notice this and then take the extra from the grid where available, or take from the battery to augment for the shortfall.
Okay, let's walk it a little bit backwards. When we get power from the grid, when we get power from the national power supply,
yeah,
we're getting both fossil fuel powered energy and hydro energy?
Yes, yes, because we have the gas plant,
okay,
and then we have the Kainji Dam and other dams and all that. Yes, that's what it is, because Nigeria is basically running on just two sources, from gas and from the hydro. Mainly,
I think hydro is what powers us, but gas is not renewable. That is fossil fuel.
Yes, that's
so those are the sources of energy that the world is telling us to move away from. Yeah?
Not exactly. They want us not to get our coal plants back,
Okay.
back online.
Okay. We should get our coal plants
No, we shouldn't. That's
okay.
what it was.
We're
already flaring gas.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense if you can use that energy you're already flaring and then use it for electricity for the country. So I see that as a positive source of energy. If it can help us stop flaring gas.
Okay. All right. So, but then when we're talking about going green, then solar energy is part of going green?
Solar energy, yes, it's definitely part of going green. Because when you put a panel on your roof, most good panels will give you at least 30 years of good serviceable life. And even at that 30 years, it could still last you up to 50. So you're looking at having free energy for that long. Once installed, you're getting all this energy for free. You're not refilling tanks, you're not doing any of those things. The only thing that you probably will do is replace your batteries when they die. And the beautiful thing is that lead-acid batteries are recyclable. So basically, if done properly, there is little waste on that too. The only thing is of course, the upfront cost to the owner. But then there are other battery technologies that last longer that one could buy and then install and have more than 10 years life on that.
Okay, so now your company is all about electric vehicle and solar charge station manufacturing. You actually do that?
Yes, we just started that. We've been, like I said, for more than 22 years we've been doing this, and then we were thinking that we could push this to another industry that is still young in Nigeria, and this is electric vehicles. We don't have electric vehicles in Nigeria, and it's understandable because we don't have steady power supply from the grid, and you need to charge these vehicles to use them. So we decided that we're going to look at manufacturing small electric vehicles that will run on solar energy. So that's it. So we're trying to get vehicles to also run on the solar energy. So making it also green. I
want to talk about cost, because on ventures we always talk about cost. How cost effective is that? You see the opportunity, but then this looks like something that is capital intensive.
Yes, it is capital intensive, but we're working on ways to make the production cost lower. If you look at the vehicle industry now, and most industries now, what most of them do now is outsource a lot of their production processes to companies that know how to do it better, right? So that's also the approach we're taking. So we're outsourcing a lot of the production processes to companies that we know already have the know-how and have a track record on it. So things like the electric motor, the drivetrain, of course, we are not going to manufacture steerings and switches and all that. What we concentrate on is making the body, the car seats, and then of course the suspension to make sure it works well on the Nigerian road. So our production facility, the upfront cost is much lower than most people would think.
And where will this be situated?
We have a facility now in Nasarawa. But we're still working out the first pilot state that will.
So in Nasarawa State, not too far from here then?
Yeah, no, not too far.
Okay. Then tell me how this is going to be cost effective. If initially when we started using batteries on solar panels and even the inverters, batteries weren't as expensive as they are now. So if the cost of batteries aren't even going down, how would the cost of an electric car be something that is reasonable for the average Nigerian?
Well, like I said, we are designing small electric vehicles, and we will not be selling immediately. Right? Because even you will be skeptical about buying from us. Let's be honest.
Doing prototypes now.
Yeah, and that's what I said. We'll be doing a test run, right? And then for the first probably 1,000 vehicles we're going to make will be on lease, not sale. So we'll have them running on the transportation sector, which means providing services to people, right? So we'll be able to get our money back from the returns on that. So for now, it's not for sale. It's more like a lease system.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still very expensive, no doubt, right? And then, of course, because we are still at the prototype level, production costs are still very high. But as the numbers go up, and then as the people that work for with us find out that we are demanding more and all that, of course, the prices are going to come down. We'll be able to negotiate better. And of course, the prices will come down to what you can buy. And then, by then, you'll be confident enough to say that, yes, these vehicles work, so I'm ready to buy.
All right. So, but tell me why batteries are so expensive. Inverter batteries, solar energy batteries, why are they so expensive?
Car batteries are quite simpler, right? They require less lead because what they just do is for you to start the vehicle. Yeah. And if you check it, they are much lighter. But for residential use, batteries that you need to run for long periods of time, and we call that deep cycles, you need a lot of lead. Unfortunately, price of lead has been going up too. And if the price of lead is going up, definitely the price of the manufactured product from the lead will also go up. Okay. So that's basically why battery prices are quite high. And then, of course, dollar exchange rates.
Okay. Then there's one other thing that I tend to think is a problem. When we do energy conversion, we lose some of it.
Yes, you do. You do. In some cases, up to 10–20%, depending on the type of battery in use.
And generally, you're going to get your when we get the solar power. In what form does it come into the battery? It
comes as direct current.
DC current, yes, right?
Yeah.
Then it has to be converted.
Okay. Yes, it has to be converted back to AC, and that's what the inverter does.
Yes, and then you lose some of it because
yes. First of all, between the sunlight coming to the panels, there is a medium, which is in most cases not clear. Yeah. So you're already losing not all the energy that is coming from the sun that hits the panel actually works. And panels are not so efficient yet because the best commercial now is about 25% efficient. So you see that we are still a long way to go on that too. Yeah. So from there, you now have to run it through cables. Now there are some losses coming from the cables down to the charge controller. Charge controller will also introduce a bit of losses to the battery. And then the battery is also going to introduce some losses during charging. And then when you now take from the battery to the inverter back and then convert it back, there are also some losses. But if you add all this up, it's really not much of a concern because what is left is still worth a lot, especially in our country where the power from the grid is poor.
All right. Will you say that we're doing much in science to alleviate some of these problems, to make it cheaper, make it more mainstream to use this alternative source of energy?
We're not doing enough, but I'm happy that some of the panels are actually assembled in Nigeria now, right? There are people assembling the inverters in Nigeria now, even these solar street lights that we see. So it's not enough because based on us being the giant of Africa, we should also be the technology hub of Africa too. Yeah. We should be exporting, not just assembling and all those things. So we're not doing enough. I think our science sector is not doing so well. But I'm also glad that at least something is happening there. So it's good that these things are happening, and I believe that with time we'll be able to leapfrog and then be where we should really be.
What about government input in this project you're working on? Is there government input or is it solely a private enterprise?
It's solely a private enterprise. Even though we've gotten some little funding from the government, but it was, anyway, let me not elaborate on that. Yeah. But we've gotten some little funding on that. We've also tried to get the government to key in and then see how we can work out push it out, because now that, whether we like it or not, the subsidy is going to go. And people like you and I may not feel it. We will still be able to fill up our tanks. We'll still, people that have generators will still be able to put fuel in their distance. But the very common man, that's going to bite, right? Somebody that is used to paying probably 100 naira on a trip is now going to pay about 300. That's really going to affect badly. So what we're trying to do is to get these vehicles on the road to keep the price as it were, because you're not using any fuel. You're going to be just using solar energy. And then everybody is going to be happier, because the driver is making more money. He's not buying fuel. And then we, the company there, is also making more money, because there is no overhead of that fuel. Because even our facility there, we're running full solar. We don't have a generator. We're not connected to the grid. So all these things you find out over time actually comes down to saving you a lot of money. Initial costs are usually high, but on the long run, the comforts and then the savings are enormous.
I'm truly excited about this project. I would like to get to see this factory. Okay, so tell me now, going forward, do you see that there will be other startups around such energy facilities?
Yes, that's the whole idea. Yeah. Why we're pushing, it's not just, it's one thing just to be doing installations, buying the panels, putting in people's houses. We should be pushing forward of, we are making the panels and then putting the panels, we are making the batteries, because it's sad to say that lead acid battery is more than, it should be close to 100 years now, if not more, and we don't make them in Nigeria. Yeah. You understand?
Yeah.
And we have so much importation of these batteries that even just a recycling plant for the dead ones is a big business already. So all these things, I'm seeing eventually, because what I know about life is always about demand and supply.
Yes.
So if the demand is high, people will actually find ways to make sure they supply it. So things that could help is government incentives to motivate people to now start making it here. I was looking some time ago at how India auto industry actually grew, because they put a 300% tax on any imported car. So if you know that you're going to buy a car for, say, ₦1 million, and then when it gets to the port, you pay them 3 million for that car, I mean, you would rather go and buy a locally made vehicle.
Definitely.
So things like that could actually push local industries to grow. So yes, no matter what you do, you still need the government to play a role. And it's sad when businesses are trying to thrive and then government just brings up a new policy that just kills the whole.
That brings us to the next question, yeah, which is the business atmosphere in Nigeria.
Yes.
The regular instability. The only thing that is regular is the policy switches and the policy.
We're sure it's going to change.
Yeah, policy shift. So that seems to be the only stable thing. But how do you thrive? You say you've been over 20 years in this industry.
Yes.
How do you push through? Because this is what Ventures is about. We need people to know how those who are doing into ventures in Nigeria, how they're able to survive beyond all of these turbulence.
Basically, you have to be flexible. You have to have plan A, plan B, up to Z. There's no two ways about it in Nigeria. And it's sometimes you may even have to pause. Just close up shop, hold on, take a breath and find out which direction is best. Because you may be pushing in a direction that will end up getting you bankrupt, right? So you may be selling, okay, look at a situation let's look at the Go-Kada situation in Lagos, where they got investors' money, got a lot of bikes, they were on the road, and then all of a sudden bikes are banned. Right? So in situations like that, you should, before getting to that point, you should have already asked yourself, okay, what if government policies changes on this. That's what I tell people. Whatever you're doing in Nigeria, just ask yourself, what if government policies change on this? Do I have another plan for this investment? So if you have an open mind like that, then I believe that a lot of people will be able to get through some of these storms because they are many.
Wow. All right. And then there's one other thing that people keep telling me, that there are many foreign companies that do business in Nigeria and still survive in spite of these. What are they doing differently?
They choose the safe businesses.
Okay.
There are things like foreign investors, they look at things. It's usually the risk to benefit. Right? If the benefit is high, then they will be willing to risk it, right? And then also there is also that high-level lobbying. So they know, some of them know their way to make sure that what they are doing is covered by government and all that. But mostly it's about looking at what's the benefits against the risk. So they're able to survive because they have looked at this and then they've weighed it all and then still ventured in. And in some cases, where storms that small businesses can't survive, they have the capital to be able to go through it and then still.
Well, how would you rate your business now? What would you say? Is it small? Is it medium? Is it...
I'll say it's still small after all these years. Because you just keep on that way. Oh, I'm growing. Oh, something. Wait. Okay, like the COVID came, we can't blame government for that.
Yes. I talk about COVID a lot on this show because a lot of businesses did not come back after COVID.
Yes.
So I like to know how people survived post-COVID. So what did you do post-COVID?
First of all, when COVID started, what we did was we kind of closed down shop, definitely. And then we cut down, of course, salaries. You're not coming to work. So we just told everybody we'll still be paying you stipends, but not the full salary for the period that was there. And luckily, we had already saved up some money for that. But it wasn't easy, right? And then during the COVID, we still somehow were having businesses because everybody was at home. Yes. There is no light. Yes. You need light, so you need this systems installed. Yeah. So the field workers were still busy going to people's houses and then installing. So, I mean, that line of business was lucrative during the COVID.
Okay. Yeah. But so can you tell me your staff strength?
Currently, we're about 15.
Okay.
We're 15, yeah.
Complete, full staff. These are people that come to work every day. They are not on contract. They are fully employed.
After COVID, we had to rethink the whole structure. So you only come, of course, there's the secretary, there's the security and all that. Those are the ones that are always there. But most of our staff is field, right? So when there's something to do, we'll call you up. You go get it done, and you get paid for the service you're rendering. So that way, we're keeping our
overheads lower. Yeah, you know, in business, you have to know. And then, of course, we have to talk about what you do as a corporate social responsibility, these kind of things. Although I find it difficult to ask small business. If you say you're rated as a small business, then I don't want to say, what do you do as corporate social responsibility? But if you're a large business, of course, what do you do for your community? But have you found a way to do work within your community that gives back to the community?
Like where I was living, what we did during the COVID was we put, because the crime rate went up.
Okay.
In fact, during the COVID, I also got robbed.
Wow.
So what we did was we put solar lights within the area so that the nights are lit, right? Where the factory is too, we've also put some lights around there. So basically, where we feel there is going to be a security risk, and we have the capacity to do that, because I mean, solar street lights, those they are cheap ones that actually do work. Okay. So we try to do that for the community around.
Okay. All right. We're still talking to Mr. Osakwe. He is the CEO of Quadcycle. We're going to be asking him some few personal questions shortly. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. So tell us a little bit about your educational background.
Okay.
So what did you major in university?
Yeah, electrical electronics and computer engineering. And then later I had some online solo courses, and then also did an online course in business administration. So that's basically as far as I was willing to go.
Okay. I'd like to know, what is the motivation? Why would you want to take on a project like creating electric cars? What would want to motivate you to do that? Where does it come from?
Well, from when I was young, I was always good with my hands. You know, I made greeting cards. Even in university, I did a lot of projects for people and all that. So it's, I like making things work. I like seeing things work. And the solar work I'm doing is, I like the joy it brings in people's faces when they are off grid. You understand? When they are not dependent. You know, electricity can actually get you mad.
Yes, it does. It does. Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because one of the best joy I have had is when there's an elderly man that I put the system for, and he called me after a couple of months and said that this is the best thing that has happened to him since he built his house. Wow. That there is nothing as beautiful as waking up in the middle of the night and touching that light switch in the toilet and knowing that when you touch it,
the power will come on. No, that's so touching.
You understand?
Yes.
So when you have things like this, it gives you joy. It's not really about the money. It's being able to make people live comfortably. There's too much stress we're facing already. So, and that is it. You move around, you see a lot of people suffering, and you just have to find a way to get at least one of those problems out of the way.
Thank you for staying with us on the show. Do join us again same time next week as we feature another guest on the show Ventures. Ventures celebrating enterprise. Bye for now.